Hello. So, I find as I do more and more of these videos, there are certain, unintentional catchphrases that come up. I mean, I planned out the, drive safe and I'll see you at the movies, and, the hello, which is usually to signal when I'm editing the videos together, kind of where to start, where to cut the end off. But I noticed there are other ones that have cropped up, like, if you haven't heard of it or whatever. And there's one that I say quite a bit, and I don't really mean to. It's the, I hadn't intended to go out tonight, but. So I'm leading off with that. I hadn't intended to go to the movies today, or I didn't even know if I was going to go this weekend, just because it's been a weird week, and I've got 2 big weeks coming up with a show opening, and I had some health issues earlier this week. I'm okay, but it was a twisted week, and I'm tired. I'm on some medication, and I'm a little out of it. So it was like, the best course of action seemed to have been staying home and resting. But what got me out was I'd known this movie was coming, because I research these things as much as I research anything on this show, and it looked interesting, and I knew it was coming, and I checked it, and I saw that the only place it was playing was at the Wolf Chase Galleria here in, just up the street from me. That's the only place, and that's not usually a good sign. That usually means, this theater is reserved for 2 things. It's reserved for movies that have gone past their first run and they're still showing them because, people want to see them. Like, this is where I went and saw The Shallows after The Shallows had been out for, God knows how long. Or it's for movies that, like this one, have had no publicity. I haven't seen a trailer in a actual movie theater for it. I had to watch the trailer online. And that's for those movies that... Oh, small penis man just went by with his big old pickup truck. My goodness, aren't we all impressed? Anyway, and it's for those movies that are gonna get shoved out very, very quickly, when the next run of films comes out. And a lot of stuff is coming out next week that's been... I'm going to try to twist this a little bit because you're getting the sun. A lot of movies are going to be coming out next week that have had more publicity, and, so this one will be on the chopping block very quick. So it was like, I kind of had this feeling that it was, I have to see this movie now or I'm not going to see it. So I kind of made the last minute choice of, gotta go. And I'm very happy I did, but at the same time, this movie depresses me. This movie depresses me because I can't say it's the best movie I've seen all year. I think Black Panther still holds that distinction currently, though, to be fair, it's not a very high bar, this year. I've had stretched to give some pretty good reviews on this show. But it is definitely one of the most intriguing. It's the most interestingly filmed, compellingly acted, complex stories, rich, interesting characters and scenario. It's just one of the all-around better movies I've seen, and it depresses me because, again, no trailer, no publicity, nothing for it. This is going to be an unhappy video to watch. I'm trying to block the sun with my head there. And I just know, just again, from which theater it's in, and, the fact that I was the only person in the theater to see this movie, I just know that this is not going to do well, and it's going to trickle in and out, and no one's going to know it was there, and that makes me sad, because I think this is a really good movie. So, if you haven't heard of it, which you most likely have not heard of this movie. So, Guy Pearce's character is a college professor who has a history of having affairs with his students. And a young girl goes missing And oh, I took the wrong turn. Anyway, so a young girl goes missing near his home. His car was, or a car like his, let's say, was seen at the scene. So he becomes, of course, a person of interest, and then it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, you know. And the movie is incredibly compelling because it's his character, Guy Pearce's character, is a philosopher, but he's a linguistic philosopher. So his whole shtick is, you know, he's playing with semantics and the real meaning. You know, you say, you know, I'll always tell you the truth. Well, no one can ever promise that. The only thing you can promise is that you're going to tell your version of the truth or how you interpret the truth, and you know, all that. So he's always dicking around with these little words and the wordplay, and it keeps getting him in trouble. And you know, as you would expect, as the movie goes on, just more and more of his lies, his half-truths, the things he interprets are turned back around on him. His wife, played by Minnie Driver, starts to suspect him because obviously she has reason to from before. The cop who's after him, you know, played by Brosnan, is, you know, he's closing in, and the whole thing is just staged and filmed in a really, really interesting way. I'm really, I don't know how long I can do this review because I don't want to give away spoilers, and you know, the ending is not like a huge spoiler, but I think it is a spoiler, and I don't want to give that away. So let's just talk about the film as best we can. Well, first of all, I gotta give big ups to the performances on pretty much all counts. Guy Pearce, in the movies I've seen, and he has made a great reputation of just playing these smarmy bastards that you just kind of hate. You know, he was the king in The King's Speech. He was, you know, the bad guy in Iron Man 3. You know, and he has that kind of look and that swagger about him. And what he does really well in this movie, and what the director does really well, is frames him in a way, in the way they shoot each scene, and the way they, you know, the dialogue is framed in each scene, is that you are never 100% sure if this guy did it, and, you know, he's trying to, all these things that he's covering up, you know, if he's trying to cover up the truth, or if he is just an innocent man who circumstances and coincidences are kind of coming back to bite him in the ass. You never really know. It seems like and they frame it in such a way that it keeps you constantly guessing. And I really like that. And his performance, I mean, that's a difficult thing to do, to turn on a dime. And it's all done very subtly. Very, very subtly. There's not a lot of, you know, grand acting in this. It's all it's little things. It's the looks, it's the way the shot's framed, it's the way he responds to something, you know. It's all done very, very well, and I think he deserves a big thumbs up for the acting he did in this, because that's a lot to try to carry on yourself and to, you know, to put across, and he does a really excellent job with it. So I really applaud him for the work he did in this movie. Minnie Driver is always one of those actors that just never really clicked for me. It's never really clicked. I liked her in Good Will Hunting, and I've never really seen her in anything else that I'm just like, oh, wow, you're brilliant. What's interesting about this movie is that, like, right from the very first shot, like the very first interaction between Minnie Driver and Guy Pearce, you can tell that their relationship isn't good with the acting. Like, there is, like, the first frame of it, it's like there's no chemistry. There's no on-screen chemistry between these two. But here's the thing. Unlike other movies where I've criticized that, like, you know, Forever My Girl, where the actors didn't have chemistry because the actors weren't that fucking good, you know, you can tell that the lack of chemistry here is planned, and it's purposeful to show that these two are not this family is not in a good place, and it's doing that right from the beginning to start, putting those doubts and putting those thoughts in your head. So it's so fascinating to see a movie where a lack of chemistry is part of the story, or part of the directing and acting. Man, and Pierce Brosnan is just, he's fucking Pierce Brosnan. And what I find interesting in the last two movies I've seen with Pierce Brosnan in it is it startles me just how intimidating he is now in comparison to like when he was younger. I got to know Pierce Brosnan like from his stint as Bond in the 90s, and if you're not a Bond fan, his Bond was not the Daniel Craig or the Timothy Dalton, hard edge Bond. His was honestly his Bond, the closest modern equivalent you give it is, his Bond was kind of the archetype for Sterling Archer. Honestly, that whole character and, the relationship with the mother and all that's very much a takeoff of the Pierce Brosnan years of James Bond. So he always had this kind of sly, devil-may-care, little boy charm. The Peter Pan complex in his Bond. And that's what made those movies a lot of fun. But in the last two movies I've seen him in, this one and The Foreigner with Jackie Chan, damn, he's intimidating. And I don't know if it's just the more experience. I don't know if it's the gray. If it is, it kind of makes me a little bit more anxious to go gray. I'm going gray in my beard a lot, so it kind of makes me a little bit more anxious because, like, I hope I'm that intimidating when, I don't know if it's just the gruff, that he takes a little bit of the Irish accent out and makes it a little gruffer, but holy crap, he's intimidating in this as the cop. He is really good, and just, hounding this guy and, putting things together. It's a really great performance in any scenes that he's in. It's like, that's great. The only acting I can badmouth in this movie, honestly, and it's not even, badmouthing the actor, it's this movie criminally underuses Clark Gregg, or Agent Coulson, who's in it as Guy Pearce's lawyer. And he, Clark Gregg is one of the best working character actors out there right now. And any film that has him in it, it's just better because he's got so much energy and charisma and a natural flow to things. And he is in it so little, and I was so disappointed. Like, when he popped up, I was like, yay! And then, he's just in it so little, you're like, oh. So if that's the worst thing I can say about any of the acting in the movie, that's a pretty hefty endorsement right there. So yeah, the acting is really well done. The directing is startlingly interesting, and I don't know quite how to describe it. The best way I can say it is that, and I think one of the best compliments I can give this movie is that this movie makes me want to watch it again. Now that I've seen it all the way through, I know the ending, and I know kind of what they're building towards. I want to go back and re-watch it to see the visual cues that the director supplies for you and to see how they link up. For instance, there's a lot of stuff, if you look at the poster for this, there's a big emphasis on mirrors and reflection. There's a lot of scenes where, there's a scene where Pierce Brosnan is driving Guy Pearce to go pick up his car from the cop impound. And there's a lot of shots of Guy Pearce talking, and the camera is focused on the rear view mirror. So you get his face, but it's being reflected, And there's a big confrontation between Guy Pearce and Minnie Driver in their bedroom where Guy Pearce is all seen in reflection. Minnie Driver is talking to him, he's off camera, but you still see his reaction, you still see him by the reflections in the mirror. So there's this, when you notice something like that, when you notice a motif or a pattern like that, the director is doing it for a reason. There's a message that they're trying to send you, either subliminally or trying to give you visual clues or something. And it's a movie that now that I know how it ends and I know where it's going, I kind of want to go back and watch it again to go, okay, whenever they do this, it's when he's lying or when he's telling the truth or whatever, you know. And I think it was a really interesting choice, and it didn't distract. It kind of made it very fascinating. And I think, and again, that's what I think a really good movie like this does, is it makes you go, I need to see that again so that I can pick up on the nuances, the little things that I missed out on. Again, I want to talk a little bit more about this, but at the same time, the ending is not, you know, shock and awe. It's not this isn't a detective story in the classic sense of a Columbo or a Perry Mason or something, you know, or an not Angela Lansbury, an Agatha Christie, you know, where they get everybody together and go, you did it, you know. There's nothing like that. But the ending is interesting in that it gives you the answer, but maybe not the answer that everybody thinks it's going to be. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I didn't phrase that right. It shows you what the outcome of this crime was. And then it suggests that it may not be the only crime. That's the best I can put it. Again, I think that's even not putting it well, but I think it's the best I can do. And I want to talk a little bit, and again, this is leading into spoilers a bit, so I'm going to try to, I'm phrasing it as ambiguously as I can. The title is also interesting, The Spinning Man, which again, because I picked up on the reflection motif, and again, that's in the poster, that's in the movie, so you picked up on that. But I was always kind of going, what is the spinning man? What does that mean? And what it's getting at, I believe, and again, this is a movie I want to watch again to kind of see, you know, how close I am, is that Guy Pearce is the spinning man because he just keeps repeating the same patterns. And the same consequences keep coming up, and they keep getting worse and worse and worse. But he doesn't change his pattern. He keeps saying the same thing over and over, but it doesn't make the outcome any better for him. So I thought, you know, again, I like movies, just coming from the playwriting side of it, as a playwright. You know, you're always trying to pick, you know, we had a whole class when I was in college taking playwriting, and they talk about, you know, naming your show. And, you know, giving it a title that's interesting, that is meaningful, but catchy, so that the audience, I always like it when a title really does make me go, huh, I wonder where that came from. I wonder what the significance of that is. And I did. And it was a movie where it took me to the last shot to kind of get it. And you're like, at least as I interpret it right now, you know, like say a little bit sleep deprived and a little hopped up, not hopped up. I mean, I'm not taking narcotics, but you know, I'm on some powerful antibiotics here. So, I don't know quite what else to say about this one. I guess, you know, obviously, last thing to say, final grade. I gotta go an A- on this one. I liked this one. It's not quite as engaging as others I've seen, and I think I do want to watch it again, but again, I want to watch it again more for the film study and the plot construction and the director choices, more so than I want to actually watch the movie again. It's more for a dissection than for a, you know, I want to watch this because it entertained me, or I thought the performances were really awesome, or anything like that. So I don't, in that instance, I think it's got rewatch value, but I don't think it has, you know, as much as some of the other films I've seen this year. But I cannot deny that this is definitely one of the most intriguing and interesting movies I've seen in a very long time, and I've missed movies like this year. 2018 has not been stellar for these, you know, and we're coming up on the middle of it, and I don't know. I'm hoping we can pull out of this, but I don't know. But I implore you, and if you're gonna do it quick. Again, only place it's playing is Wolf Chase that I saw. So if you like good detective stories, you like some really fascinating actor and directing choices, then take the pilgrimage out, go check this film out, and do it fast, because it's not going to be around for long. Again, the fact that I was the only person in the theater, kind of says something. Next week when a bunch of these bigger releases, start to come out and they need a place to put them, I would bet money this will be one of the first films to get kicked out. So I say check it out. If you miss it in the movie theaters, it's definitely a Redbox or a Netflix or something, but definitely check it out. I really enjoyed it, and I wish we had more movies like it. So that's it for me. The next couple weeks are going to be a little tricky. I got a show opening in 2 weeks, and previews and everything. But I've already made some plans. I'm trying to see a lot of these movies I want to see, and we're coming up on when I'm getting ready to go back to Alaska for the summer. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of these reviews through June and July. Pardon me. So I want to try to get as many of these out before I head home. And so that's it for me. So for Chewy, Mr. Chirpy, and myself, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.